Okay, looks like we got folks on, so I'm going to go ahead and get started because I know you guys are joining us for your lunch break and I want to be respectful of your time. So we've got a tight 30 minutes to get through everything. And just to reiterate, this session is going to be all about benefits counseling. And what is it? How can you get the most out of your benefits? What even are your benefits? So this is going to be an intro level overview of your benefits and what benefits counseling can do for you if you are currently receiving assistance through programs like SSI and SSDI. So we will have more sessions, more in-depth sessions later on, and you can always let us know in the chat or in our post webinar survey if you have more specific topics you want us to dive into. But for this one, we'll just be starting off with a brief introduction. So before we go in, we do want to remind everyone that this training is conducted in a safe zone. So feel free to share your thoughts, use the chat. If you are joining us through Facebook, I'm sure there's a comment section there as well. So hopefully you can share your thoughts there as you're watching the live stream. This is a safe space, so no question is going to be censored or anything like that. We're happy to help you guys out. And then before we go into the PowerPoint, we also want to take a quick detour to a website called Mentimeter. This is where we are going to be getting your feedback in the form of some survey questions. So it should only take about a minute or two to get through everything. But in the meantime, please pull out your phones or open another browser window and go on to menti.com. That's www.menti.com, or you can scan that QR code on the screen. And when you get to the site, please type in the code 2885-2707. And Nicole Meyer-Emery shared the website and the code into the chat if you're with us on Zoom. And you'll be able to join us on the survey. So again, just join us on menti.com 2885-2707. Don't close your live stream or your Zoom window. Just open it in a separate browser on your phone, and we'll get through the first couple of questions together. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up that survey. So looks like we already got some folks in here. Great. This is just a little bit of an icebreaker question. We want to get you used to how to use this website. So we got some hot takes for you. We always like to start off with some hot takes. So we want you to know how much you agree or disagree with the following statements. So buffalo dip is the best halftime snack. And if you agree, you pull that slider all the way to the right. Or if you disagree, pull it to the left. And if you're indifferent, you can leave it somewhere in the middle. And then we also have another question. Coke is better than Pepsi. And again, do you agree or disagree with that statement? I think for me, buffalo dip is great, but I don't know if that's the best halftime snack. Now that football season started again, I'm really looking forward to some chicken wings. That's just for me. I'm not much of a chips guy, and I'm always team Coke over Pepsi. I think Coke has just got that right level of sugary and carbonated goodness that I'm looking for. So I'm agreeing with you guys there. All right. And thank you guys for answering that. I'm going to go ahead and move forward so we can keep our pacing going. So now we're going to start asking you some questions about benefits counseling. We just want to know, are you familiar with benefits counseling? And slide it all the way to the right if you're an expert, and all the way to the left if you don't know anything about benefits counseling or what even benefits are. And if you're somewhere in between, you can always move it anywhere. This is a whole spectrum here. We just want to get a sense of where everyone's at. So hopefully we can fine tune our presentation for you guys as we go through here. All right, looks like we're getting some responses. Most people not super familiar with benefits counseling, and I don't blame you there. It's pretty complicated, right? Benefits is like you could get a degree in studying how Social Security works and all the different programs. But luckily, there's going to be experts we're going to point you towards that are going to be able to help you and provide individualized services for you guys to answer all your burning questions, look through your financials and everything else. So before we move back, let's just answer one last question. What does benefits counseling help individuals with? Select all that apply. give us your best guess here, and we'll come back and revisit this question as well. So check all that apply. Does a benefits counselor help you understand how work affects Social Security? Does it help you with learning about work incentives and income limits, making informed decisions about employment and benefits, and then navigating benefits like SSI, SSDI, Medicaid, and Medicare? Okay. Seems like folks are not quite ready to answer this one yet. So I'm going to go ahead and go right back into the PowerPoint here, and we'll try revisiting this question later. So if you guys are joining us, go back into that live stream or go back to the Zoom window if you can. I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint again, and we're going to get into the information, the stuff you guys signed up for, right? Remember, this is a quick 30 minutes presentation, so we're going to try and get you guys out by 12:30. And we'll leave some time at the end of that 30 minutes for some Q&As in case you have specific questions you'd like to ask us. So let's get started. So before we can talk about benefits counseling, we need to understand a little bit about the programs. So I'm going to spend some time talking about the many state and federal programs that are really designed to assist people with disabilities. There are a lot of programs in our country that are designed to help people in need. These are called needs-based programs. And usually it's because of low income or some other support that they need. And the two biggest programs that people with disabilities are going to be involved in are going to be the Supplemental Security Insurance, SSI, and Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI. So you're going to hear those terms thrown around a lot. And sometimes you might think like SSI, SSDI, they seem kind of interchangeable. Just know that there are some key differences in these programs, and we'll be going over them and how they can help people with disabilities and why there are going to be some questions and why you might need benefits counseling for them. So long story short, both these programs, SSI and SSDI, can help an individual with disability with regards to financial assistance, housing, food, education, medical care, and more. So they provide a lot, right? They can help someone with a disability really improve their quality of life. And that's hugely important. So let's start by talking about SSI, Supplemental Security Insurance, and its health care program, which is called Medicaid. This is, the first of two programs, and just know that with SSI, the two main things you're going to get are going to be a monthly cash assistance payment and access to something called Medicaid. And I'm going to explain both of those to you guys. So starting off with that cash assistance payment, just know it's going to be essentially a monthly check that's going to be deposited in your account as soon as you apply for and are approved for this program. And the monthly benefits payment, the amount you get, is going to be determined by a couple of factors. They're going to look at your income level. So how much you're currently earning, especially if you're employed and you got a stable income, they're going to take that into consideration. What state you live in, and also your marital status. So when it comes to SSI, they usually give individuals a flat rate of $967. That's the amount determined by the federal government. And if you are a married individual, so if you're a couple, it might be 1,450. That's the max that you would get from the federal government. Now, I mentioned that there is also state, that the state that you live in can also affect things. So, for example, in Pennsylvania, they kind of recognize that, hey, cost of living here is a little bit higher than the nation's average. So we're actually going to help you guys out with a little bit of extra into that check. And not every state participates in this supplemental payment. So you do want to look into, what you'll be eligible for or what your loved one will be eligible for. And then we'll talk more about income and how that can affect things later, because that's probably one of the biggest questions we get from people. So let's talk a little bit about Medicaid first. So Medicaid can help pay for healthcare and provide access to something called the Medicaid waivers. Now, long story short, Medicaid waivers help with personal care, home services, daycare, transportation, nursing, employment, and more. So basically, it's giving you access to a whole bunch of state-provided services that can really help you with getting you access to the things you need to live your independent life, right? Maybe it's access to group homes, or nursing care, or help with getting a leg up and getting your career started. Medicaid waivers fund a lot of these things. So for many people in our experience, people who receive Social Security insurance, the monthly payments absolutely are nice and essential, but Medicaid is usually the biggest thing that people are looking for because it provides so much value and so many services to people with a significant impact of disability. Now, there are some limitations in this program. I've mentioned in the last couple of slides. SSI will look at your monthly income and total countable resources. So those are the two things to pay attention to: your take-home pay, and also how many assets you own. So how much money's in your bank account, how many properties you own, how many cars you own, things like that. That can all affect your eligibility for this SSI program. Because this is a needs-based program, they're really prioritizing those with very limited income and access to financial resources. So one thing that they will do is, as you get a job and you are in SSI, you're going to have to start reporting your earnings every month. And there's a term called countable income. And that's going to start affecting how much money that 967 you get from the government. It's going to go down a little bit. It's not a one-to-one reduction, so it's not a total wash. You do come out ahead if you go out and start working, but it is a little bit complicated. And then also remember, they're looking for your total countable resources. So they're going to look at, how many properties you own, the stocks you have. Let's say you just won that big Powerball jackpot. I think it was like 1.8 billion and there were like two winners. If you got that and you reported that to SSI, they'd probably be like, you know what, Anthony, I think you got enough. I don't think you really need this program right now. We're going to prioritize, these services to someone who really can't afford these otherwise. And so they're really going to look at, do you have more than 2,000 in countable resources? And that excludes your first car and house. So you can have a roof over your head, you can have transportation, but if you're going to go out and buy, a weekend car like a Ferrari or something, they might have some questions for you. Also, another thing to keep in mind is if your child who is under 18 and receiving SSI, the government might look at the parent or guardian's income as well. So there's a term called deeming. We don't have a lot of time to get into it, but just be aware that that is a thing that they can look into and something a benefits counselor can help answer. So some quick math here. SSI limitations: countable income can't exceed your SSI monthly payment, right? The take-home pay you're getting is going to start reducing that check you get from SSI, that 967. So if you earn so much, like you get a great paying job, you're earning six figures, they might cut so much from your SSI check that you're not even going to get a check anymore. And if that happens, they're going to say, you know what, you've earned enough. You're probably going to have to be out of our program and lose access to Medicaid and all these other things. So let's look at some of the most bare bone equations on how to calculate your countable income. It's going to be, first, you're going to take your check, your total income that you get from your job, and you're going to subtract income not counted by Social Security. So the three things you really want to pay attention to that aren't going to be deducted are the first $85 of your earnings received in a month. So that's a freebie, right? They're not going to count that first $85. And then half your earnings after that initial 85 are also not going to be subtracted. And any other things you get, like tax refunds, if you're part of SNAP, or you have like college scholarships and stuff like that, that isn't factored in either. So they're not going to take that into consideration. So let's look at an example. Let's say we got Timmy here. He earns $185 from his job in January. And normally, before January, he was unemployed. He would get a $100 check from SSI. Now, these numbers are all totally made up, right? We just made it so the math is easy. So he start earning 185 from his job. Well, his countable income, we can look here. We can figure out, how much is going to be deducted from that check. Well, remember, the first $85 not counted. So that's good, right? So his countable income is only $100 at this point, And then remember, half of that income after that first 85 is also not counted. So that's an additional $50, right? So his total countable income is only 50. That means only $50 is deducted from his SSI check. So he's still going to get 185 from his job plus $50 from his SSI check. That means he's coming out ahead at the end of the month, right? He's still earning $235, which is a lot more than just that $100 check if he was not employed. And this is a common misconception we get from a lot of folks. They hear that, oh, their SSI is going to start taking money out of your check if you start earning money. It's not worth my time because I'm not coming out ahead. And that's simply not true, right? There are limitations on how much you can earn, but if you get a job and you still want access to SSI, there is a way to kind of thread that needle and still come out, earning more than you would have if you only received SSI cash assistance payments. Now, the other big thing, the other big program is SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, and their healthcare program called Medicare. So SSDI is a separate program from SSI. And in fact, if you are someone with a disability, it's possible to be on both SSI and SSDI. Social Security Disability Insurance is really all about providing cash benefit payments to people who can no longer work due to a long-term medical condition. So it was originally really designed for you. You're working, you've had a career, but maybe get injured on the job, or you develop a disability like a chronic disease or illness, and it takes you out of action, right? And you need some help before you can rejoin the workforce. But it has been amended to also allow you to provide these benefits to dependents, including children with a disability that started before age 22. So this is where you might see some people who have a disability, don't have a working history, but can still earn SSDI through their parents and guardians. These benefit payments are calculated based on your work history and the credits you earn by paying taxes on Social Security. So anytime you get that paycheck and you see that deduction from FICA, they're taking that in consideration. How much have you actually paid in? And there's some kind of algorithm they use to figure out, well, this is what you're going to get through disability insurance. And then it also gives you access to something called Medicare, which is a form of health insurance. I don't think it's quite as extensive as Medicaid, where you get those waivers and access to all those other services, but it is a nice way to get access to healthcare. So the way they look at your need, how much resources and stuff is a little bit different under SSDI. Instead of doing like fancy math to calculate how much your income is and, is that going to make you ineligible for SSI and stuff, SSDI just basically says, you have to earn under a certain threshold, which is substantial gainful activity. So as long as you earn less than 1,620 for non-blind individuals or 2,700 for blind individuals a month, if you're under that, you're still going to receive SSDI. But as soon as you start earning more than that, then they're going to start looking and seeing, okay, well, do you still need SSDI? Should we stop sending you those checks and take you off Medicare because now you're working? Now, they definitely recognize that, recovering from a disability or a chronic illness isn't quite so easy. Starting a job isn't always easy. And, if you have a disability, there might be extra barriers. So it doesn't always work out, right? So they have some things like trial work periods where you can still return to work for the first 9-month period. And even if you're earning more than that substantial gainful activity and stuff like that, you're still getting your full SSDI benefits, at least initially, just so you have that safety net. And there's an extended period of eligibility for that first 36 months after successfully completing your trial work period. And there's things like if you start working and all of a sudden you have to stop because of your disability, you can expedite coverage for SSDI. Because one thing I didn't have time to mention to you guys is SSI and SSDI, it takes a while to qualify for these programs. Social Security is a massive bureaucracy. It takes a while to get your applications approved, to get your paperwork together. Not only that, but sometimes people get denied on their first time. And my piece of advice is that's really common, and it never hurts to appeal that ruling. So if you think you qualify for SSI or SSDI and you got a rejection letter saying, nope, we don't think you're eligible, it might just be because they didn't review it correctly, or maybe you filled out a form wonky and you ticked the wrong box. It's okay. Always appeal. you can always reapply and have them look at it a second, third, fourth time. It's incredibly common for people to appeal because they know they're eligible for these benefits, but for whatever reason, the paperwork just didn't work out that time. So now that we've kind of given you a crash course on SSI and SSDI, you probably have a million questions, right? Like, well, what are these income limits? What's deeming? And how do I report these things? And that's where benefits counseling comes in, right? This is that free service that can help people with disabilities understand the impact of their benefits that they're receiving. And if they want to go out and work, because there's a lot of reasons we want to work, right? How's that going to impact everything? So they can help answer everything from how do I report it? What will my check look like? How do I keep access to Medicaid or Medicare? How do I make sure that, I'm operating to whatever the government's looking for? I'm not trying to game the system here. I just want to know what my options are, right? And what incentives are there from Social Security? Because there's actually a lot of programs that are designed to help you get back to work through Social Security. And that can really help you while still maintaining SSI and SSDI. So benefits counselors go through specialized training to do that. I'm not actually a benefits counselor. We just work a lot with them. So benefits counseling is a great service. It's for people who have been specially trained by Social Security to look at your individual situation, right? Everyone's different. All of our financials are different. Our jobs are different. The benefits we're receiving are different. So they really have to sit down with you one-on-one to look at all of your resources, all the programs you're part of, what you could still apply for, and they're going to help answer all your questions, help you come up with a really clear game plan so that you can get back to work or just at least know how to maintain your benefits and participate in these programs and get the most out of these benefits. And they can help you answer all of those questions. So they can explain specifically how work can impact SSDI, SSI, other needs-based programs like housing assistance, SNAP, healthcare benefits, eligibility for work incentive programs. They do a lot. And the best way to get access to them is to start early, right? Don't wait till you've already gotten the job and think, oh, shoot, I forgot about the whole Social Security thing. Let me, schedule this because they have a long wait list. It can take a while to get access to a benefits counselor because it has to be an individualized service where they're looking at all your stuff, right? It takes time. And there's only so many of them in our state or in the country that have gone through this training. So you're going to want to get started before you go out and start looking for a job. So all your questions are answered because there might be a couple months wait before you can get access to that benefits counselor. So who can offer it? There's a whole bunch of options that are funded by Social Security. There's employment networks, Voc Rehab. So if you're in Pennsylvania, that's the Office of Voc Rehabilitation. Work incentives planning and assistance trained individuals. So if you don't want to go through Voc Rehab or employment networks, just hop onto Google and search WIPA certified benefits counselors, and that should point you in the right direction. And then there's also protection of advocacy for beneficiaries of Social Security. So that would be like the organizations like Disability Rights Pennsylvania, which can also help you. Now, there is a link here that will take you to Social Security's website where there's actually a search engine where you can look for WIPA certified providers. And I'm going to pull that up real quick because we're almost done here. But I wanted to walk you through the website because Social Security's website's a little clunky, I'll be honest. So this is the Ticket to Work website. This is the work incentive program for people on SSDI and SSI who want to get back to work and they just need a little bit of help. So there's two ways to search. You can do a guided search, which just sends you through a questionnaire, or you can just start your own direct search here. I'm just going to go with the direct search so we can find what we need right away. And so you can see here, there's just a whole bunch of filters that you're looking for. And the main thing you want to look for are those WIPA certified providers. So you can see here, there's career planning services. There is beneficiary networks and things like that. So just search for the ones you're looking for. The one you want is actually going to be on the left column here, those benefits counselors, the WIPA certified benefits counselors. So you just have to click that, hit update, and it's going to give you a whole list of those WIPA certified counselors. And you can narrow it down by state too. So if you're in Pennsylvania, obviously search for Pennsylvania, and it'll give you all the companies that can help you out. And you can get started. So you can see there's actually quite a huge list of WIPA certified folks in our country. It's going to get narrowed down a lot once you get to your state. But those are the people you want to start reaching out to. And if they're really busy, you can always ask them, hey, do you know any other organizations that can help provide this service? Because there might be a few that aren't listed on here. But these are the experts that are going to help you with benefits counselors. We're just trying to raise awareness about what services they can do and answer some basic information about Social Security. So that way you guys know where to get started. And if you have more specific questions related to like what can a benefits counselor do, or questions about your Social Security, definitely let us know in the survey or stay on afterwards and we can do a little bit of a Q&A. One other thing I want to shout out before we go back into Mentimeter is the Padlet. So this link will take you to our transition Padlet. It has recordings of all of our previous sessions on all types of topics. We covered everything from transition planning while in school, all the way through to employment services run by OVR and ODP. And we have more topics coming in every season. So check back on those. You can see YouTube recordings, copies of our resources, our PowerPoints and things like that. So it's a great resource. It's always available, and you can always access it at our Padlet. And the link is on this slide or in the chat.